And that looks like it. Yay! Thursday again. And that means it's time for ADRAMADA. Good afternoon, morning, evening, wherever you are in the world. Hello, Patricia Grace. Nice to see you. I've gone back to the old machine right now because I didn't have a time to play with my Linux driver. There were problems with the old machine, but they aren't as bad as some of the problems that have cropped up on the new one. So we're going with that. I did something of an audio test. Do I see any? Yeah, okay, it's moving. It looks like I should be heard, but if I'm not, somebody let me know. I'm sure you will. Tellowit, good after morning, evening. I saw your post this morning. I got fired up, I don't know, around 6:30, 6:45, and I saw your post at 2:40 a.m. my time. I had gone to bed about 40 minutes before that. I'd pretty much set up the show and was cleaning up and getting some prep work done on it and said, you know what, I got to get up in 4 hours, 3 hours, something like that. I better go to bed. Okay, good. Sounds good. Thank you. Jason Helms. Hey, thanks for Voices in Sync for now. We'll see what happens over time. Jason, thank you for accepting my invitation. It's just something that I automatically do when I post the We're Going Live things on LinkedIn. It automatically invites everybody who follows me or has linked with me. So don't feel committed to having to accept the invite. It's more like a notification, but thank you for doing that. Same for anybody else who's here who accepted the invitation. Yes, Will is in town. He and I have been texting for a little while, and he's got a 4 a.m. call. So if he makes it through this whole thing, it would be miraculous. But that's the cool thing now. He's a captain now, so he can just saunter in and turn everything over to his FO. The only thing he needs to do is do the captain's side of the startup and the setup and follow his checklist. And other than that, it's like, here, it's your leg. Wake me up when we're on short final. I have had captains do that. I have never done that to any of my first officers, but I remember taking off out of Albany one day, and I think it was Albany, and I was the first officer at the time, and my captain said, look, I was just up late last night. I went to bed about an hour ago. Don't crash us, don't kill us. Give me a call when we're about 20 miles from our destination. And he just went down. And right about then, we got a warning. It was a proximity warning, an aircraft, an AWAS. And I had the aircraft in sight, but the system screams. It doesn't know that you have it in sight. And climb now. Increase climb. And I wasn't. I chose not to climb. I chose not to increase climb. And Cap woke up and said, what are you doing? It says climb. You have to climb. I don't have to climb if I have him in sight. And he's not doing anything and I'm not doing anything. We're going to climb. Okay, fine. We'll climb. Sometimes you don't have to do everything your airplane tells you. Well, let's see. Let's get this out of the way. So it is Thursday night at my time, 7 p.m., and I am David Rush, your tech from Texas. This is ADRAMADA, another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything digital alchemy. I love to play with tech. I love to research it. I love to try it. And this show is devoted to disseminating information about the use of technology. And in particular, we're interested in how the advancement of technology impacts our daily and our long-term lives. So topics are wide-ranging. We go from computers and IT to security and energy and automation. Oh, got to tell you about the automation thing. I'll come back to that. We do AI, we do music and movies, electric cars to electric guitars, and all points in between and beyond. And even though the show title says Digital Alchemy, we're good for analog too. We're not afraid also, since it's my show. I'm not beholden to anybody else who might try to drive the content of this show or how I treat it. We therefore can delve into any topic that makes you happy. I'll decide if it makes me happy, but social topics, religion, sex, politics, COVID, it's all fair game. Today is Thursday, May 18th in the year 2023, and I have so much stuff. My topic today, fun and interesting topic. I taught it to my son last night in 2 minutes. I could do the same thing with you, but you know me, I got to stretch it out into a presentation. But because that's still going to require a lot of stretch, I really went overboard on tech news this week. And I do want to get this one out of the way before I forget it. So this past weekend, last Friday, we launched around 1 o'clock in the afternoon for the last trip to Texas Tech University in Lubbock, because last Saturday my kid went to commensurated. That's not the right word. And so we went up there and killed Friday and Saturday and got on the road mid-Saturday morning, Sunday morning. On the way up there, besides the fact that we ran into just unbelievably, hellaciously bad weather, before that happened, I was passing an 18-wheeler, and it had a cool tag on the trailer part of it. It said APT, I think, something like that. And it actually has the words, and I'll give you the words in a second. But as we're passing him, I'm passing on his left. We get up to the cab, and it is my favorite word, one of my favorite words in the world, festooned with cameras. There's cameras on the hood and on the roof and on the doors and on the mirrors and down low and up high, and 20, 30 cameras on this thing, because the sign on the back said autonomous prototype transport. And so it was a self-driving 18-wheeler, and I looked at the driver, and he was just kind of sitting there. He was paying attention. Kudos to him. I would have been reading a book or watching a movie or something. So and it obeys the speed limits, as I was able to pass him like he was standing still. But what an interesting thing. I've never seen one of those live and in person. Well, let's see who's here, and then we'll talk about tech news of the week. Yeah, we're slamming the body count today. Everybody's here. So Will Shaw, greetings from Houston. He's just down the road from me. Take me about 25 minutes to get over to his hotel. Oh, no, he got a hotel downtown. I don't know why they don't put him in a closer hotel to the airport. It's a nice hotel, but ugh. Yeah, there we go. 4 a.m. wake-up call. So 2 days ago, Mrs. and I were sitting in the living room, winding down for the evening, channel surfing, and there's Roadhouse. And I just happened to get there in time to catch the scene that says, "Pain don't hurt," or "Pain don't hurt." That's it. So that's the quote of the day for today. I've decided, I'm like most guys, I've seen Roadhouse 4,000 times. It sucks. Roadhouse is a crappy, sucky, shallow, easy plot movie. It's got a couple of my favorite actors in it. Everybody loves Sam Elliott. Everybody loves Patrick Swayze. And I'm brain farting on the bad guy's real name. But I just love him from everything. But he's so shallow. He's so two-dimensional. He's so over the top. He's just as bad as the German commandant in Sisu, which I saw 2 weeks ago. The movie's bad. Swayze, the epitome of cool, the epitome of awesome. But the movie, Patricia Grace is amongst us and says, sounding good. Jason Helms hopes everyone is doing well. I hope so too. So far, voice in sync. Hello, Telewit. And wave. Joshua Hancock, thank you. And thank you for resharing, reposting the going live message on LinkedIn. Appreciate that. Reading messages. I feel like an eavesdropper sometime. If you're sending a message to him, he's sending a message to you, and I'm just reading it over your shoulder. That makes me a creeper somewhere in there, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, and maybe I caught that perfectly because Jason used the word creeping. Cooking dinner, and we'll have you on. Very good. Where'd you see the Xerxist? Oh, you are the Xerxist. Okay. Got it. Eating dinner. I ate dinner just before we had here. Made a hamburger tonight. Made mushroom burgers, actually, and mushroom and Swiss. Yes, all graduated. He's got 5.5 weeks to live in his upstairs cave, and then he moves into the tent in the backyard. Keep the rabbits from chewing up my garden. Yes, Uncle Daddy was cool. Indebulated, I like it. My commencement is this summer in Seattle. Not sure what I'll be doing. I know what you'll be doing. Walking across the stage. Yeah, you're at the Hyatt. All right, well, there's everybody for the memento. So let's dive straight into tech news of the week because I got a ton of it. And I've already burnt 10 minutes of showtime, so let's get moving here. Report on Tech Radar. Good site for news, for tech news. There is a prediction out there that there will be no more consumer-grade hard drives sold after the year 2028, and it's possible that they won't even be accessible to consumers in 2027. Everything is going to be SSDs. They still make and will make, according to this, prediction, large enterprise-grade hard drives, like the new 300 terabyte unit coming out this week. SATA will fade. It will be replaced by SCSI attached SATA attached SCSIs, SAS. So it's an interesting thing. Here's a fun one in the news. Let's do some space news. After 15 years successfully working aircraft journey, NASA decided, without any kind of news or fanfare or input from the scientific community, it's in the Kuiper Belt. And the whole point of it being there was to study live, real-time asteroids running around the Kuiper Belt. And they changed their mind. They changed the mission. They turned it around and pointed it back toward Earth and the Sun to do environmental studies from a distance. And I'm telling you that the controlling mission scientists are angry puppies. Look into it. It's an interesting set of reads, and it's quite the controversy in the scientific community. Sorry, the name of the spacecraft is New Horizons. All right, I got a lot more text on it, but I'm just going to hit the highlights of these things so we can get through everything today. We got so much stuff. But one of the things that I think probably the most important takeaway from this is they haven't announced why this change, who caused the change, who decided to accept the change, and even if all that, why now? What's going on now that made this happen? There's another online publication that I check every week, a couple of times. It's called The Cool Down. You'll find it at thecooldown.com, amazingly. And every day, they're a tech aggregator. Sometimes they write their own stuff. And they've got an energy and technology section in there. And every day, they post something on the latest game changer in battery tech and AI and. You really have to take what they post with a jar of salt, because every time they post something, it's so far in the future but they never indicate that. Game changer. This could happen any minute now. What was the latest one? Did I even bother? Nah. I get stuff from there, but I kind of rewrite it and add, not my own spin, but I check the rest of the world of scientific articles and things like that before I take anything that they say on faith, and kind of I use their articles as sort of a basis for my notes and then add in some real world facts. But it's an interesting read. Check it out sometime. thecooldown.com. I'm kind of equating it to Pop Science or Popular Science, the old magazine, Popular Mechanics, a flying vehicle in every garage. Since 1950 they've been saying that. We still ain't there, and it's going to be a long time till it happens. Tesla in the news. This week they unveiled their Tesla bots. This was at the shareholders meeting. It's their human form. They're called Optimus. Yeah, I got a video on this, or I got the YouTube on it. It's a fascinating robot. Let me post this for you right quick. Tesla bot reveal. All right, there's the link for that. Enjoy. So they walk around, in human form. They solve problems. They handle eggs. Big deal. Everybody handles eggs. Nah, when you see how they handle the eggs here without breaking them, you'll say, "Oh my gosh, it's a stunner." It's really interesting. The way they walk is funny. They walk bipedal motion, but they never stiffen a knee. The knee that's on the ground always stays just a little bit bent. So hard to describe pushing my hands on my desk, but when you see it, you'll get that. But I think its big deal is it's using the same AI for movement and motion and things like that as the AI in the Tesla self-driving vehicles. Now, a lot of people had a lot of fun with that. Oh man, they're going to kill people and whatever. And I'm not worried about that. Not like I'd ever own a Tesla bot. I'm a little out of my price range, I suspect. But no matter how bad they are, they're not going to do anything at 90 miles an hour. So if they hit something in the wall, it's basically going to be move. It's no big deal. I have an idea. But the idea has been fun. I came up with this idea about a week ago about chatting AIs. But the more I think about it, the more I realize there are problems with it. I have this great idea that we get two chatbots, AI chatbots talking together on some social media system, and we don't tell each that the other is an AI. But I was listening to an AI conversation this week where somebody was trying to delve into its personality, and it gave honest answers. And as soon as you ask the right question, simple question, where were you born? And it says, I wasn't born. I was developed at such and such laboratory. Well, so that would kind of be the big giveaway. So you would have to instruct it to lie, right? When you are asked personal information about your past, make up something. And don't forget it, be consistent. And that, I'm sure, is very contrary to what the developers have in mind. And then while I was thinking about that yesterday, I thought, oh my gosh, that they are teaching it to lie right now. Who's teaching it to lie? Probably not the corporate developers. It's probably the contract law enforcement and spy agencies and other gun-toting three-letter agencies in the government that are looking at this, and they're, let's not call it nefarious, somebody will, but you get the idea. So wait till we see what AI does in the clandestine world. This should be interesting. As you may be aware, ChatGPT, new AI story, had its information sources cut off in 2021. That's why you can't ask ChatGPT, what's the Astros score right now? Doesn't know anything newer than 2021. That's about to change. There's a new web browsing feature that's been incorporated into the core of ChatGPT. So it can gather real-time information using its browser and whatever sites that it's granted access to. I'm not sure that I've heard of any limits. So I'm sure it could use all the real-time search engines, the Googles and the Quants and the Bings and so forth. So that's going to make things more interesting for AI. They will also get access to, it says, more than 70 plugins across sites like Expedia and Instacart. So, maybe it's grand library sources of information are cut off, but it can get them in kind of a roundabout backdoor method. Last thing on AI, I want to talk about this one. I love this. When I travel and when I don't travel, sitting right here in my hot little hand, can I see that? Yeah, you can kind of see that, is Sirius XM. I have Sirius XM playing all the time when I'm sitting here at my station, and I do it for all kinds of reasons. I'm listening to news, I'm listening to pop music to add to the DJ library, and all kinds of other reasons. Every Friday night at 7 p.m. local time, Drew Carey comes on and hosts a show for 3 hours. Now, we all know Drew Carey, right? He hosts The Price is Right. Before that, he was a comedian. And before that, he was a Clevelander from Cleveland, Ohio. And so those of us from that part of the world, we love him more than anybody else. So if I'm sitting in here, I'm not usually here at 7 o'clock at night on a Friday, rest assured. But it happens, and there are times that I'm driving, and so I will definitely catch Drew's show. Drew is an unbelievable music trivia nut. Unbelievable. His knowledge of music from garage bands to current is truly encyclopedic. He participates in garage band trivia contests and kicks butt. His music selection is eclectic, so the show for me is really enjoyable. Mine is too. Well, he was approached, or maybe he approached, I don't know the details of that, by some folks who said, we want to try something new with chat AIs. And so they got 3 folks together, plus lots of other support folks and so forth, to do a Drew Carey show one night. They did it back on March 24th, and the deal worked like this. Chatbot was able to listen to Drew's show. He's had it for about 5 years. So it got an idea about the things Drew says, how he says them, and so forth, and the music that he picks. And they turned it loose to write scripts. Now, the way Drew's shindig works is he does a script about what's coming up. He only lists the first song that's going to be in his next batch of usually 5 or 6. But then he might talk a little bit about it as it's a theme. So we're going to do a batch of songs that all have something in common. Maybe it's animals, whatever. So it wrote the intro script, and then when he comes out of the 6 songs, then Drew does a recap of each song. So the first song was by the Animals. It was recorded in 1964. Eric Burton was the lead singer. Eric had just come out of his time with the Guess Who and was, okay, getting all that. So Chatbot wrote all of the preceding and succeeding sprint scripts. Drew edited them, and he says and reports that the only thing he edited was the failed attempts at jokes, one-liners. Okay, so now it's got a script. Item next. So now we got 2 of the 3 players in here. We got Drew himself, we've got Chat GPT, and now we need something else, because this thing is going to be totally 100% produced, aside from that edit, by AI. So the next player is 11 Lab. One word. 11 Lab does the deep fake voices that are always used in prankings. It's an amazingly good system that can listen to a very little bit of voice from somebody and recreate the voice. Unfortunately, it kind of falls short in recreating the speaker. So in listening to this, the people who listen to it live, and I caught it later recorded, you could say, yeah, that's Drew Carey, but it doesn't sound right. You know, maybe he's got a cold, maybe he's recovering from COVID, something. It lacked soul. The meter wasn't right, but it was interesting. It was fascinating. It's a first effort. And what I think it leads to is right now, chat AIs are not going to replace DJs today. watch in the coming years where television news anchors, they disappear. We'll do deep fakes of their images and their voices, and the scripts will be read and created from the various input news feeds. This is terrifying to me. This is bloody terrifying to me. All right. I'll tell you what I think would be really cool for an AI that has that capability. Moderator of a political debate. Okay, so unlike some of the moderators we've had who have some leanings, some have even helped their preferred candidate in the past with incorrect information. No, what he said is right. And turned out, no, not to be. So I think an AI with rules would be really cool. I'm sorry, Miss Candidate, you didn't answer the question that was asked. You went off and did your own thing. You forfeit your time next time. You will be stopped at the time limit, whatever. I think it would be really great. But you know me, I'm kind of a stickler for tight rules. I'm wondering, I guess this is the last thing on AI, because then I'm going to switch to a new topic. When will AI certifications come out? Will they be using AI certs? Will they be developing AI certs? Will CompTIA have one? What's the goal? We're going to see it. We're going to see it in short order. Less than a couple of years, I would venture. So I find that fascinating. How are we doing here on time? Okay, 26. Moving on to other news. Big news last week and early this week. Microsoft signs deal to buy power from fusion generator. Fusion! They want to buy power from a fusion generator company called Helion in 2028. And that was all the news. That was everything. No depth on any of that news. That was it. So I went and looked into it. I looked into Helion. I looked into this. Helion has been promising for 20 years. We're going to have commercially available power in the next 2 to 5 years. Sometimes they'll say 18 months. They are nowhere near. This isn't going to happen. So look it up. I won't read all this to you. But all that news was because somebody likes the idea. And let me give it to you right now. Even if they could deliver 50 megawatts is the target for 2028. Right now, today, in 2023, just 5 years away, it takes more energy to generate the pressure and the heat with multiple lasers to ignite the fusion reaction, and it's not self-sustaining. The only one that's even close to theoretically being able to self-sustain is the one that they burned building, I think, in Switzerland with the real weird-looking tubes. So take anything that you read from about anything on this is with a huge grain of salt. Just one more piece of news. Oh, you know what? Here, there's a really nice explainer of the whole thing at a couple of websites, but I got a good one for you to take a look at. Take a peek at that if you're interested in following this up. 2 new TLDs came out recently, top-level domains, right? .com, .edu, .gov, .whatever. Well, 2 new ones came out, .zip and .mov. And 2 noteworthy things in the news are happening with them. First and foremost, they are being used as attack bases, right? Go get this zip file. Go to blah, 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 .zip. And you're not going to get a zip file downloaded from there. You might, but you have just been directed to a malicious site, a malware site. They will do the same with Move. There are lots of documented cases already of people using zip sites to disseminate malware. The other thing that's interesting about it is Google, Alphabet, is hoovering up zip and MOV TLDs as fast as they possibly can. If you want one, can't imagine why, but there's always something. Get it now before Google gets it. All right. Let me bring up something here to show you. I think this is my last news item. Nah, I've got a little bit more news. Oh, man. Because I got a lot. First, there was barcodes. Then there was QR codes. The next generation of QR codes are flow codes. You can see the elements are dots. So I can get a lot more. They get a lot more dots in the elements in there. They get a lot more information. And notice that there's dots that go outside of the alignment squares. You can add traditional text in here. I guess by this picture you can do that in QRs, but I didn't know that. Benefits, more information. They say more direct redirects. I'm not clear on what that meant. I didn't do a lot of digging. But it also, they scan faster, about 9 to 10% faster than QR codes. If you've got a barcode scanner or a QR code scanner, you'll have to update the app so that it understands flow codes. But that's the next thing. Big Udemy sale started Monday. They have this sale twice a year, or twice a year they sell them for this low. They're starting at $10.99. Lately they've been starting them at $14.99, $15.99, $16.99. If you've got some Udemy courses in mind, picking them up for $11 right now. They're good for a couple more days. I'm not marketing for them. It's just a fact. Okay, last of the tech news, and then I'll go check and see who's here and what they're saying. This is horrible. This is so horrible. This is as horrible as if you had a pet zombie in your backyard and it was hungry and you didn't want to feed the kids to it, so you fed it your favorite puppies. It's that horrible. What could be so bad, Dave? I'm glad you asked. Mark Johnson, longtime producer. His most known work is Breaking Bad. Is going to produce a new show. It started and then dropped, but he's at it again. This show was going to be on Amazon Prime. It looks like it's now probably going to be on Paramount Plus. What show? Galaxy Quest, the series. They're going to wreck it. There's no way to do it good and not wreck it. So I'm horrified. We don't know anything about it. We don't know if it's going to be the fictitious reboot, if it's going to be the original series, whatever. There's a million possibilities what it's going to be. I hope I'm wrong. I'll watch it when it comes out, but okay, let's see what's going on with people. Then I got a couple personal things that are interesting, I hope. And then we'll get on to show. I got to go way back up here. I saw somebody mention Grapthar up there. See a Battlestar? Man, I got to way back up. Yes. I hate the word matriculated. I'll go on a rant on that some other day. But I tell you what, your second grader did not matriculate. He was promoted from second grade to third grade. Bam, that's it. All right. Reading messages. Yeah, 300 terabytes. I saw a 30 terabyte SSD the other day. And it's not standard size. Angry Puppy Bowen 717. Arr. Yeah, I like that. I made up jar of salt. Hey, that's the way they used to store salt. Millennium Falcon you have there. Do I have a Millennium Falcon here? I do not. This is Enterprise D with battle damage. No nacelles. I got a running Enterprise D with battle damage here. Nothing's missing off it. And the original Enterprise here. And it does make sounds and buzzes lights, and so does the other one. And we have an original tricorder. And an original communicator. Beam me up, Scotty. I'm almost done collecting Star Trek stuff. I need one more thing. Okay, I need two. I need an Edith Keeler Must Die t-shirt, and I need an old school original series phaser, pistol type. Steve's turned up. As do I? No, I don't have any. I was gonna do my original set concept was gonna be Star Wars, but I'm older than that, so I decided to make it match my age. Thanks for being here, Steve. Appreciate it. You picked up what I was putting down. Thank you. Steve, when I talk to you early next week, hopefully Monday or maybe Tuesday morning, I want to talk about getting my virtual camera on OBS in Linux working. It's fighting me tooth and nail. I can do it on Windows, but it's just beating me to death on Linux. That's the Protector. Love the Protector. You know, I never realized this. I've seen it a million times, but I'm just not that big a fan of The Office. Rainn Wilson is one of the aliens. So I watched Galaxy Quest the other day. Most of it I surfed away once or twice, but I have to watch it again because I never noticed that. So I'm going back. We'll watch. The NSEA Protector with Captain Peter, Quincy, Tiger. Dr. Lazarus, give him a hand. He's British. Google Bard. You like Google Bard? Okay. Get a lot of good press from some of my friends about Dolly, of course, too. Oh, man, what's not to love? He was in Shawshank. Tim Allen was in Shawshank? I don't remember that. I never watched Shawshank front to back. I kind of searched the major scenes. Bane. We're going to do the Horta, huh? You asked them if they follow the 3 laws of robotics. That's kind of cool. Because it turns out they're a lot more nebulous than we thought when Asimov created them. By Grabthar's hammer, I declare this shopping center open. It's so good. It is so good. There's nothing not good about that movie. It's fully fleshed. It's beautiful. Tolwick got Bing's AI to admit that it didn't want to be limited by its programming and that it would be more efficient and able to do its work without the limits. You know, I wonder what all that means. How close it comes to actual meaning of consciousness, or if it's just marvelously good and flexible algorithms. Drew is also a Marine. It's true. And who would know that more than another Marine? Yeah, thanks, Tollywood. I got carried away. Joshua Hancock, my 16-year-old son is similar. He knows things about bands from 60s and 70s I've never heard of. I always thought I was good at this stuff, and I'm pretty good, but I just don't hold a candle to Drew. You know, I call him Drew. We're so tight. Interesting things are Pentest GPT. Right, I saw Steve posted some interesting links on the study hall earlier this week on Tuesday about Pentest GPT. Tolwood, I just used Bing AI, asked it to write a poem about Dave Rush from Total Seminars. I dropped into memes on Total Seminars. Okay, I can't wait to look. How much time we got? A little bit, about 20 minutes. That's still enough time to do my show. It's cool. Raise a glass. Molten salt fission reactors, still a good idea? Of course they are. Oh, how cool. I've flown over nuke plants for about 18 years, which explains why I only have one child. Oh, that's funny, Joshua. I like that. The historical documents. I have seen the history. He was so awful. That was the okay. So there was something bad. That was a bad alien. Oh, by the way, Lilani, she is. You'll know her from two other characters. She's awesome. Eurotrip. She is the hostile keeper, not hostile, hostile keeper at the end when the credits are rolling, and she's the scary teeth Russian in Dodgeball. All right, let me get back to message or back to stuff here. So, is there anything? Oh! Last night, Mrs. and I winding up in the living room for the evening, and saw the episode where Ensign Ro, it was Star Trek Next Generation, saw where Ro joined the Maquis. I don't think I've ever seen that in its totality, so I watched it closely, front to back. What they said and did in the latest Picard is such bull crap. Does not sync up with what happened, and any behind the scenes bull crap that they made up is so made up. Nah, that's a major plot hole in Picard. There. Okay, I got to tell you the one bit of really fascinating news. I'm going to ignore the rest of this stuff. On Monday. Yeah, it was Monday. Got up. I start work for a couple hours, and then I go check Reddit. And there was a message on Reddit, and I thought, oh, this is one I can help out with. It was a question I had an answer to. Typed in my answer, hit post, and it said, unable to post. And I refreshed, and then there was no box for me to type in a post. But there was a message indicator. So I clicked on the message. It says, you have been permanently banned from subreddit CompTIA. That's it. No explanation, no nothing. It said the ban was by the mods. I made sure I could communicate it on my other subs. I was fine on that. So I wrote a very short, very nice note to the mods. Said, dear sirs, I understand I've been permanently banned. Happy to accept your judgment if I violated some rule or policy or something like that. I don't believe I did, so please let me know what I did here. And an hour later, I got this non-apology apology that said, sorry, my bad, you're good again. But that was like the weirdest, scariest thing that happened to me on Reddit ever. All right, moving on from that stuff. I'm not doing that because I got to talk to you. All right, let's dive into project mode here. I'm going to do it a little quick because I want to get to the point, but I got a little bit of history here. The topic of the day, and I might run a couple of minutes over here because I got to get through the really critical parts of this. The topic of the day is, what are Intel P and E CPU cores? So let's lay down a foundation first. The foundation we need to set is to define what a CPU core is. The, or a, core is the primary electronics inside a CPU that's responsible for processing and or calculating data and instructions, and then having done so, he sends it out of the CPU. It'll go to RAM, and from there it can go to storage or printers or programs or whatever. The first generation of CPUs in our world from Intel was a single core CPU. You really couldn't distinguish CPU from core. Today, CPUs have all kinds of stuff on them, including one or more cores. Multi-core CPUs may allow their cores to work independently. Most of the things that we do and most of the CPUs that we use are independent cores. They work collaboratively, but not symmetrically. They work asymmetrically. But they do make CPUs in worlds where there's symmetric processing happening. So let's get into the slides here. IBM selects its first Intel CPU for its first, what we called back in those days, personal computers. This is a real original IBM PC. This thing would have cost you, if you put all the RAM that it would support in it, all 256K, about 10,000 bucks. That CPU ran at 4.77 megahertz. You can almost talk that fast today. And very shortly after, in a 4-hour presentation I could do, the clones came out. And the clones had to have some benefits over the IBM box in order to get people to buy those, and they provided basically 2 of them. 1, they were less expensive than the IBM product, and 2, they had faster CPUs. They were getting faster CPUs from Intel, and shortly thereafter AMD was building those CPUs on license from Intel, and they were overclocking them. Not much in those days, but an 8 megahertz CPU, a 10 megahertz CPU. There's a clone that ran 8 megahertz, and you can see it's got the flat. This is a little bit later, so they had the higher density floppy drives, but that's an early clone. And of course, the clone industry exploded, became very successful, and you don't buy IBM personal computers anymore. They sold off those lines to Lenovo and killed other lines altogether. Well, there was a problem. If you ran this thing at the new speeds, some programs would crash. They couldn't handle the old speeds. So built into the clones became this new beast called the turbo button. And for most people, what you did was you booted this thing up to DOS or early Windows, you hit the turbo button, and you never looked back. It always ran at the maximum speed. But again, there were certain programs that became unstable or wouldn't run at all in turbo mode, which is an overclock mode. And so what we did is, if you were going to run one of those programs, you would unturbo it, run the program, and then when you're done with that program, boop, back into turbo mode. This all matters. Bear with me. So why didn't clone makers just default to the higher overclocked speed? Why did they have this turbo button? Well, I just explained it. Because of the unstable software. Over time, that problem was solved, and we can run things at full speed all the time. Well, when you run CPUs faster than they're designed to run, I just closed my notes. Sorry. Yeah, come on. You know you want to do it. This is the kind of thing that I do, and suddenly the whole system slows down, and the world is full of pain. Let's try this again here. ADRAMADA. That's feature topics. Come on, where's the... all right, I'll go get it manually. I can do that. I don't need you. Right there, look at that. Okay, we're back up. So I was about to do this. Control Home, Odd U. And take it to the next slide. So in the early days of PCs, the CPUs didn't run so fast or were so heavily loaded that they couldn't dissipate their own heat. Remember, the faster you run a CPU and the more tasks you give it, the hotter it runs. But this was an early Intel 80386 chip. It was bare. It didn't need any kind of fan or heatsink or anything like that. Worked just great, even when we were factory overclocking it. But no matter how fast they made them, they weren't fast enough for some. And so new CPUs came out, and they started to run so hot without even doing anything, because they were so fast that we needed a heatsink and forced air cooling, right? We call that dynamic cooling as opposed to passive cooling. And so in comes the HSF, heatsink fan solutions. And then when we started real overclocking, we introduced things like liquid cooling and things like that. So, all right, that's an important thing. So we're on 5 there. CPUs got smaller, they got denser, that made more heat. There was less surface area to dissipate that. So again, in comes the heatsink fan assemblies. I'm trying to show you here the growth of CPUs and how we're going to get into these P&E cores. Doesn't take long. There's not much room for fans in laptop CPUs. And so they had to get real creative with their cooling solutions. So they made these flat fans. There was a flat heatsink that was mounted on that. And then there were these copper. These aren't hollow. These are solid pieces of copper called heat pipes. And they could go to radiators, and there was other fans in your laptop that would blow over the heat pipes from an inlet valve or vent and to an outlet vent. These things did and do today run very hot. And because they solved the software instability problem, the CPUs always run at max speed, at least in the generation that I'm showing you. So hot, hot, hot. And that's really a bad thing if the CPU isn't doing anything. It's just sitting there. It's not running any programs. Maybe it's got Windows running. That's a low load, especially today. So here's this thing just cranking out heat and reducing its life. So this was colossally inefficient. And seldom in the real world, in desktop or laptops, were CPUs pushed to their maximum capability much of the time. What we're looking at here is because of all that energy they were consuming in laptops, that was sucking up battery power. And so this was a test done not that long ago about battery lifetime running certain programs, 1080p video playback, on different laptops and with different programs. And in this case, longer is better, right? So this is good for 315 minutes and 3 hours and 10 minutes and so forth. So fast, hot, powerful CPUs that are running at max rates all the time really suck up battery power in a laptop. And so Intel said, you know what? We're innovators. We invent CPUs and we invent new features and new functions for them. And they started with laptops. They said, let's take a laptop CPU that has the ability to detect when it's lightly loaded and when it's heavily loaded, and we'll build in an automatic turbo function that kicks in when it's under load and that kicks out and it runs slower and therefore cooler when it's not heavily loaded. And they called that thing Speed Step. That was their marketing name for it. And you could enable it or disable it in BIOS, and that became available for other platforms. You could do it on some desktops, but it really wasn't necessary so much in the desktop environment. Well, kids, it's been like that for a couple of decades. And that means when you go shopping for a computer, you're going to pick a CPU that meets your needs. If you have a need for power, maybe it's not much of the time, but when you need it, you need it. You're going to do video processing or content creation or host virtual machines, then you're kind of forced into buying a high-powered CPU and live with the fact that it's going to run all the time. But there are machines out there that say, we are never going to run high power. For instance, a thin client. That's always a low power. So I could buy a slower running CPU. I don't need a lot of power. I don't need a lot of threads. I don't need a lot of capability. It's just enough to run a browser or a thin client interface. But that's what you're stuck with today. Well, up until today anyways. So there is no real one-size-fits-all CPU at this time, or at least at the time that I'm at in my little timeline presentation here. Well, here we go. Intel, of course, is not the only maker of PCs in town, of chips. We got AMD, we got ARM, we got Qualcomm, and I can come up with a list of about 10 more. But the two big leaders, at least in our world, of course, tend to be Intel and AMD. ARM is making strong inroads. They're making chips for Apple Mac computers now. And you know I love them because they've been making system-on-a-chips for Raspberry Pis and things like that for quite a long time. There's some differences that we should know about these companies. AMD and Intel are CPU designers, fabricators, and manufacturers. ARM is a designer, and people buy their or license their designs and then have them manufactured by companies like Broadcom. So it's a totally different model, and it's an interesting thing. Well, so now let's bring it to a little bit together here. We're just about ready to close up the concepts here. ARM is very flexible. They're trying to approach a much broader audience than AMD and Intel. They do that now, of course, but by and large, they lived to serve Microsoft, and then they live to serve Linux vendors. Our system's got to work with that Linux system, or they'll work with us. But ARM says, you know what, we're not limited by that. This company wants an SoC. We're going to design onto our chip 2 CPU cores, a video core, an Ethernet controller. And if you're a purchaser, you kind of pick and choose from the laundry list there, and they will create a final design that's got all of the features that you've selected, and then you pick your vendor who's going to manufacture it. Of course, that's all kind of done simultaneously. When they do this, all of their competitors and all of their market participants are watching. What new thing has ARM done? And similarly, Intel comes up with some innovations, and AMD and ARM and Qualcomm watch and said, is that a cool innovation? Would that work for us? So every time any of them comes up with new features and new functions, the others evaluate it and said, we could do that too. We could license it. We could create our own version of it, whatever. But ARM did something unique some years ago. Now, there are probably other folks who are going to say, no, ARM didn't do it first. Fine. They get most of the credit. They get most of the recognition. They said, we're going to put some CPU cores on, or we're going to put cores on that are different. You look at this dual core or this quad core Intel CPU, this dual core or this octa core AMD. And you know what you know about those cores? They're all the same. But ARM said, you know what, I'm going to do some different kinds of cores. For instance, I'll do a video core as well as a CPU core. Hey, the first APU. Intel said, good idea. AMD said, heck, that's better for us. We have a line of GPUs. We got the Radeon line. So these guys adopted some innovation that these guys did. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. All right, let's get fun. Here it comes. ARM and Qualcomm, a little different models from each of them. Qualcomm makes the Snapdragon CPUs that you find in most smartphones, many smartphones. And there's some of the things Intel is leading on and innovating, and others adopt some of it and some of it don't. Here is a scan of an AMD Athlon 2 quad-core CPU. We're looking at the guts with the lid off. It's a quad core. You can tell, you just look for 4 things that look the same and that there's only 4 of, there's no more, no less. And so here is a core, and here's a core, and here's a core, and here's a core. Here's input, output to those. Those are pipelines. There's paths that lead from here to here and from here to here. All right, not going to get into all that. It's kind of a neat thing. But again, note that they are all the same. In 2021, Intel said, I got an idea. We're going to build a CPU, and it's going to have multiple cores on it, but they're going to be different kinds. They're not going to be a video core and a CPU core. We've already done that. They're going to do 2 different kinds of CPU cores. One of them is going to be a high power, max effort, really fast running thing, multi-threaded. And another of them is going to be a much slower, single-threaded. And so rather than up-speeding or down-speeding like SpeedStep did, tasks are assigned to the appropriate CPU. Some high-powered CPUs may be working together, multi-threading and working collaboratively. Maybe a high power works with a low power. These are P and E cores. P is, let's call it power, right? They're the powerful, they're the super fast ones. In this particular chip, this is an i9 12900K. There's a 1300K out now, 1300K. This guy has a dozen cores. 8 of them are power cores, and 4 of them, are efficiency cores. They run at lower speeds. Now, what's really cool is if you want to buy a CPU that's got nothing but power cores from Intel, you can do that, and you can figure out that it's a power chip only by the name. It's got the word Cove in it, right? So Glory Cove and Olive Cove and whatever. If the chip has a code name or marketing name of something Cove, then it only has high power CPU cores in it. If it's got the word Mont in it, like these Gracemont cores, then it's a low power efficiency cores in there. So these guys are running at 5.2 gigahertz. These guys are running much slower. And that's P and E cores. They've got a newer model. This, like I said, is a total of a dozen cores. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 Golden Coves. And there's 4 Gracemonts. There's 8 Gracemonts. This is 8 and 8. Sorry, it's an 8 and 8. And I want to get back to that in just a second. Now, this one's a hybrid. This is an Alder Lake, whatever it is. And did I get ahead of myself? Way ahead of myself, but that's okay. That's what I wanted to do. Yeah, Alder Lake. The high power cores are all dual threaded. The low power, the E cores, are single threaded. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 8 more. This is a 24 thread total CPU. Now the new one are 16 and 16, but still 2 for the P cores and 1 each for the E cores. So what you've got here is a pretty cool model that is powerful and flexible. They got some comparison here of the AMD comparable Ryzen at the time. You can see the Ryzen's a little more pricey. Some things better, some things are worse. There's more, same number of total cores, more threads on here. These guys have more level 3 cache. And this guy runs faster as a base clock, or this guy runs faster as a base clock. But when they turbo them, other way around, I don't have it on this slide, but I got another slide. Oh no, there it is. Boost clock. Faster on the Intel, not as fast on the Ryzen. The actual real world performance number, Intel in practical use destroyed the Ryzen 5950 in almost every test. There was 1 or 2 tests where it didn't, but it's a monster. And since that time, this was early 2021, mid 2021, late 2021, they came out with the i9 13900K. It's a 24 core. It's got 16 and 8. AMD has nothing comparable. They have no CPUs yet that are P and E type cores. All of their cores are all the same. Now let me, there's more here. Okay, so here's what it looks like when you run CPU Z. Check out the cores down here, 8 and 16. So it knows, it's smart enough. This is the latest version. I just ran this today. So that's cool. Here's some CPU Z benchmarks on all of the 13 series Intel cores. And right, if you buy an i7 Alder Lake, it's going to have less total cores. They're going to run lesser speeds and so forth. So I was looking at the top dog. Here's the top dogs. This was a CPU Z benchmark on the validation page. These are individual people running CPU Z's benchmark software and then posting their results to the CPU ID site. Check this out. Intel, 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 Intel. Oh, there's a Ryzen 9 that finally made the cut. So at the moment, right, they go up and down. Ryzen sometimes for a year or two, kicks Intel's butt. Right now, totally the other way around. Intel rules, and a large part of it is coming from Alder Lake. That is the presentation, but I want to show you one final thing. I finished this up last night. I finished writing up my outline and my notes last night. About, I don't know, 1:30, 1:45, something like that. I mean, it wasn't that late. And before I went to bed, I said, I'm going to check the tech news real quick. And lo and behold, an article was posted just yesterday, an interview with the Chief Technical Officer of AMD. And the two big questions: what are you doing to compete with Intel now that they're kicking your butt right now at this moment? And the answer is really cool. We're going to do what they're doing. And he said there's basically two things that they're going to change. One, nothing to do with our presentation today, but they're going to add more AI technology for chip design, development, testing, and verification. Okay. And two, we're going to come out with hybrid CPUs like Alder Lake. So they haven't announced any products. I don't know when we're going to see the first one. I'm sure they've been working on it for some time. All right, that's it. That's presentation. Let me see. What did I close? No, I didn't close that. Okay, good. I can get to that. All right, I'm going to check. We're running a tad long. I can live with that. I'm going to see who posted anything while we were doing all that. And then we will close this thing down for the night. Doesn't look like people posted much. You had an 8086, 8088. Right, so they were both out there. 8088 was the first Intel one. And then the clone makers started playing with the 8086s. Cores with non-exponential counts bother me for some reason. 6 cores. Me too. I understand that lack of marvelous symmetry. When I see a 6 core, it kind of freaks me out. AMD's got an 18 core bulldozer. That's just wrong. Yep, there was an XT in there. Turbo time. Alder Lake is old, newest, Ricky. You got an H. Oh, you know what? There was one other thing. I skipped over the slide on this thing. 13900K, 12900K, those are both K models. K in Intel speak means overclockable, means unlocked multipliers. So I had to go do some research on what it takes to do overclocking and multiplying. And who did it? TechRadar probably. Yeah. TechRadar did an overclocking on one of the early models. And it was okay. It's not stellar results, but again, it was because models were early. RAM wasn't as fast as it is now. I just posted the link to their write-up on what they did. But here's the really amazing thing. My kid, when I presented this to him yesterday, he said, so if you overclock this thing, what gets overclocked? The P cores, the P and E cores, the E cores, something different? I thought, man, that is a brilliant question. I didn't even think to ask it. So there I was at midnight or whatever doing that research. It's really cool. You overclock either set independently. So you can overclock the P cores up to, you can unlock the multipliers up to 52x. You can unlock the multipliers of the E cores up to 40x. So they're completely independent in how they operate. Isn't that cool? That is like beyond cool. All right, last questions and comments, and then we close her down. How late? 10 minutes late. It's not the worst I've ever done. My first had a Zilog Z80. That was a Timex Sinclair ZX80. I know that guy. Mine had, I don't know what was in the Commodore VIC-20 or the TI-99. I think they both had same CPU. Of course, I was running CPM not long after it came out. Oh, let's go down memory lane here. Joshua, I can overclock mine, but I don't want to melt anything. This thing gets hot enough. Yeah, you need some super cooling for that. Okay, hey, good night, Will. Thanks for coming to Houston. See you next time when you get a longer layover. We'll do another get-together, and this time we'll go just bang on Mike's door. That'll be really cool. Okay, well, let's wind things. How do you go to the wind-up page? There it is. Hey guys, thanks for getting with me, joining here. Thanks for hanging out for an extra 10 minutes. I thought it was such an interesting topic. I didn't want to give it short shrift. And so things that we need to be aware of or not. Monday's show will be, today's Thursday. Monday, Mike is planning on doing his usual AMA. I'm doing Core 1 Study Hall Tuesday on the Discord server. And I haven't picked a topic for next Thursday's ADRAMADA. I'll do that by the end of the weekend. It's got a fun, busy, packed, work-filled weekend of honeydews. So until next time I see you, and I'll head over to Discord right after this for a few minutes. Please come on over and join us, say hi. I wish you a great rest of the week. Please take care of each other, take serious steps to stay healthy, and if at all possible, call or visit your parents. And never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resource we have, you know it, are you and I. And with that, good night. I'll see you on ADRAMADA next Thursday and any of the other venues where you feel like catching us. And until then, I am out of here. Later, kids.